Today we are going to talk about why you should learn to code, why coding is hard, the fastest way to learn to code, and as a bonus, we're going to talk about an awesome software project idea that we have for this entire video series. Hello world, welcome to Reasonable Coder. I'm your host, Terry Murray. That's a ripple, that is so cool. So question one, why learn to code? Aside from being fun as heck. Create instead of consume. So you spend too much time browsing the web, probably like just about everybody, watching TV shows, playing games. If you do that, there's less time to do something rewarding. So code an app or a website or a game and lay off the videos for a while. Well, except this one, obviously. And two, the world is more computerized every day, and coding gives you power over all those devices. If you have an idea for an app or a website or a game, you can just make it. And when you can make devices do whatever you want, that's power. Question two, why is programming hard? Too many people quit before they really get anywhere. Why is that? Well, one, there's a lot to learn. Programming is like a spoken language, depending on the programming language that you pick. And so you need to know a lot before you're fluent. Some people attempt to learn too much theory up front and they get overwhelmed and don't get anywhere. Some people learn too little theory and they try to code with the little tools they have and they don't have what they need to code effectively, and that gets disappointing too. Two, it's hard to know where to start. There's an overwhelming number of languages to choose from, and advice is not consistent. If you Google, how do I learn how to code, you can find a lot of professionals or people who've been coding for a long time giving advice, and they're all very different in what they tell you. So knowing which one to pick and what's right for you, that's difficult. Question three, the big question. What's the fastest way to learn to code while solving aforementioned problems? Number one, make it as fun as you can as soon as possible. If on your first day of learning you hear, "Before we begin coding, we must properly understand code blocking, execution scope, conditional loop structures." Our goal here should be to quickly write code that we can interact with and play with. We'll experiment with the code to see what changing things do and how stuff works. And we'll deal with theory only when we need it. Which brings us to item number two, problems before theory. People are more likely to remember an idea if that idea solved a problem that they spent time working on. It's based on an interesting cognitive bias called the processing difficulty effect. Okay. For us, that means a little more work in how we structure the content of these videos, but for you, that really means that theory we encounter will be more intuitive when you first reach it, because you'll already have seen the problems that that theory was meant to solve, and you're more likely to remember that in the future when you need it. Lastly, number three, use a single project and work with that same code base in every video. One piece of advice that we kept seeing on how to learn to code, an idea that we liked, is to find a problem that you care about, or an app you want to build, or a tool that you need to solve a problem that you have, and use that as your learning environment to learn to code, because then you have passion for that project. So we picked one project idea, something that we think is going to be relevant to as many people as possible without being boring, and something we think will hopefully be useful in the end. That way we'll always have a familiar code base at the beginning of every training video, and it'll be fun to watch that project grow over time into something useful. So in summary, keep it fun, problems before theory, and one large project. Bonus item, what is the project that we have in mind for this series? A very common starter project in programming tutorials online is a simple to-do list. So we thought that we'd take that to the next level. It looks like what we're planning right now is probably like a 4-phase approach. In phase one, we'll use that to learn beginner concepts. We'll make a simple command line to-do list. And here we'll learn also a common professional software development workflow. That'll include things like Git repositories and unit testing, modern debugging, Stack Overflow, and why it's crazy important, and code reviews. In phase 2, we're going to grow from a command line tool into an application. We'll go from a to-do list into a task tracking system. We'll add a web page front end, and we'll move our data into a database and talk a lot about how databases work. It's one of my favorite things. Phase 3 is mobile. We'll build Android, iOS, and why not a Windows Phone app? And we'll do all 3 simultaneously because why waste time, am I right? Phase 4, we're going to grow the task tracker into a multi-user, cloud-based project management system because we can. After that, who knows, maybe we'll do super fun stuff like home automation or robotics or machine learning. I play with each of those things myself and it'd be fun to dive into it a little more. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Pro tip. We thought we would end each video with a tip from the pros, things that we've learned after years of programming. We haven't started coding here yet, so our number 1 tip is how to fight distraction. Programming not only requires focus, but it requires focus for long periods of time. In the industry, I guess in multiple industries, that's something referred to as getting into the zone. That's difficult to do if you're distracted. Our tip for helping with that is to use a headset to drown out your environment. So earbuds will work if you have those, which most people have access to those. But we prefer over-the-air headsets like this. Yeah. Regular music can work, but if you find lyrics distracting, I know I do, then you can try movie music scores. You can also try like ambient sounds like rain and thunder and lightning, and that works for a lot of people. I've tried both and they both work for me. So that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you want to be notified of new uploads, please consider subscribing. And in our next video, we'll tackle the excellent question, what is the best programming language? You'll see me then.